Number 10. Florida Joker. Batman's arch-nemesis, the Joker, is real, and he doesn't live in Gotham. He lives in Florida. Lawrence Sullivan is actually nicknamed the Joker due to the tattoos all over his face that make him look like the comic book villain. He even has tattoos on each of his cheeks that make him look like his mouth has been split from ear to ear and then stitched back up, just like the Joker that Heath Ledger, rest in peace, portrayed in The Dark Knight. Ha 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 is also tattooed below his right eye. The word Joker is scribbled on his forehead right next to the Batman logo tattoo with the word F Batman on the wings with a digger piercing the bat's heart. He also had his hair dyed green. This guy really committed to the role. Sullivan was recently charged with possession of illegal substances. This isn't what got him press, though. A week later, he was arrested a second time for pointing a gun at passing cars while standing in the middle of the street. When an officer arrived on the scene, he spotted the wannabe Joker and immediately recognized the guy. After all, he's got a look that isn't easy to forget. The officer discovered a Smith & Wesson .380 in his pocket during a routine pat-down, and Sullivan was arrested for carrying a concealed weapon. The Joker claimed that he wasn't waving his gun around, but he definitely had one in his pocket because he just wanted to feel safe. Sullivan didn't really seem to mind going to jail. He said that once he was inside, he was treated like a celebrity. But he didn't spend too much time in Gen Pop. He was taken to the psychiatric unit, which honestly makes sense for someone who believes he is the Joker. Let me paint you a better picture of the guy, though. Sullivan also had an upside-down cross and a 666 tattoo in front of one of his ears. His mother stated in a report that Sullivan just recently inked his entire face as a way to express himself. She stood up for her son, saying, "He's a good kid, you know. He has a lot of tattoos, but he's a nice kid with some problems. He is mentally disabled and is handicapped." Number 9. Karate Bird. Visitors to Lake Eola Park, Orlando in April 2018 were shocked and appalled to see a grown man performing karate moves on local birds. Rocco Mantello was reportedly going the full Bruce Lee, unleashing his inner dragon on the heads and butts of passing swans. Worst of all, he even attacked a duck who was apparently sleeping, and he didn't care about the people watching. In fact, it apparently amused him. Mantello was an ex-wrestler from Indiana University. We'd maybe expect that kind of behavior from kids, but a 34-year-old? Mantello was arrested and charged. Why he was practicing his lethal moves on swans and ducks minding their own business? Who knows? It's that warped type of behavior that puts the so-called Florida man in the spotlight. This was a case where the feathers were truly flying. Number 8. The Christmas TOESUCKER. It may not be as well known as Santa Claus, but the Christmas TOESUCKER is a thing that happens in Florida, at least according to reports from Christmas Eve 2020. A male homeowner from Bradenton was getting some shut-eye when he realized someone was in his house. Yikes! The intruder wasn't looking to drop off presents. By his own admission, he wanted to suck on the owner's toes. Double yikes. Thankfully, he didn't appear to have gotten much of a chance. This alarming Yuletide experience ended in a fight when the man began to fondle the resident's feet. The TOESUCKER fled the scene, breaking both a window and the owner's windshield on the way out. To our knowledge, he wasn't caught, so lock your doors and windows. Oh, and wear a really thick pair of socks. Joking aside, this was a terrible situation, and we hope the person concerned still managed to have a Merry Christmas. What would you do if someone broke into your house trying to suck on your toes the night before Christmas? Let me know in the comments below, and while you're at it, give this video a like and hit that subscribe button too. Number 7. Love Robinson, BSMD. Remember the old show Doogie Howser MD with Neil Patrick Harris? It was about a young kid who becomes a doctor. Far-fetched stuff perhaps, but there is actually a real version. Only trouble is, he lived in Florida and the young man actually had no legit medical practice. This is 18-year-old Malachi Love Robinson from Palm Beach County. While still a teenager, he took the bizarre decision to set himself up in medical practice. Hippocratic Oath? Who needs that pesky nonsense? Robinson pretended he was older and pretended to have a PhD and MD under his belt. In fact, he had a belt, but that was about it. So why was he practicing medicine without a license? He didn't exactly have patient care on his mind. In 2015, he took over $20,000 from an elderly individual. By the time authorities caught up with him in 2018, he'd been charged with grand theft and fraud. Robinson actually worked for a shipping broker, and he's accused of having clients send money to his personal account instead of the company, at least $10,000. Despite Robinson's assertion that his business was that of a naturopathic physician, i.e. alternative medicine, the young, quote, doctor eventually pled guilty and was sent to jail. And sadly, he doesn't appear to be back on the straight and narrow, with reports from earlier this year stating he was arrested for grand theft and fraud again. Number 6. Can't cry over spilt milk. Almond milk has long been a substitute for cow's milk. A lot of people will emphasize the benefits, believing it to be much healthier than cow's milk. One case in which it wasn't healthy at all happened in Florida last year. It all started when Justin Anthony Garcia got into an argument with his cousin over the topic of seed versus udder. The pair were having a dispute on a Sunday afternoon in the area of Lehigh Acres. Instead of chilling and enjoying the weekend, they decided to challenge each other over a surprisingly controversial subject. Amazingly, tempers flared and Garcia reportedly struck his cousin. A fight ensued, everything was going crazy, then things got even crazier. Garcia pulled a knife. His cousin apparently made a run for it, but Garcia caught him and lacerated his torso. Garcia's uncle broke up the fracas, and police moved in to arrest the knife-wielding milk enthusiast. Of course, there's a bit more to this than what beverage is better, with the pair obviously not exactly being best buddies before the slashing took place. That said, attacking someone over almond milk is surely a whole other level of family strife. Number 5. Tweedledee and Tweedledum. In 2015, a Florida couple got trapped in a janitor closet for days. John Arwood and Amber Campbell needed somewhere quiet to socialize, aka enjoy some illegal substances. Where would they go though? The Environmental Science Center in Daytona was apparently the place to go for Arwood and Campbell. Not your typical den of illicit activity, but okay, top marks for thinking outside the box. Unfortunately, the couple shut themselves inside the box in order to do their business, specifically a janitor's closet. Things seemed to have gone pretty well until they decided to scoot. Presumably, there was more to it than simply opening a door and leaving, because in the couple's intoxicated state, they couldn't work out how to get out. So this was pretty awkward. Funny as it is though, the situation must have been scary for the pair. Unbelievably, they spent a couple of days trapped inside of the janitor's closet. Eventually, Arwood and Campbell had no choice but to call the cops for help. They were then arrested for trespassing. Being stuck in a closet for 48 hours meant they did another type of business too. I won't say any more, other than there was a pretty awful smell seeping out of the small room when the door was opened. Oh, and in case you're wondering, police reported that the door could not actually be locked. How far gone were they? Number 4. Grocery shopping? Talk about a takeaway. Maeli Alvarez Aguilar was doing some shopping in 2018 at a store in Indiantown, but something wasn't quite right. In fact, it wasn't right at all. Alvarez Aguilar was clearly looking to have a good time, judging by the state police had found him in. He'd been drinking quite a bit and was looking for some food to soak up the booze. Wait till you hear what he picked up during his trip for supplies. Picked up being the correct expression, as he applied a 5-finger discount to his purchases. That, and he was picked up by the cops, of course. Alvarez Aguilar stole a rack of ribs, fried chicken, burger buns, and mashed potato. This is actually making me a little hungry. But hold on, how did he manage to get all this stuff out of the store? Simple. He hid it all in his pants. The arresting officer said he removed a whole rack of ribs out of the guy's waistband. Gotta hand it to him. That's one hell of a way to bag some groceries. This story is enough to put anyone on a diet. Number 3. Castration-Tastrophe. This story is a little nuts. Actually, it's a lot of nuts. Look away if you're squeamish, and let me introduce you to amateur surgeon, 74-year-old Gary Van Ryswick of Sebring. In what sounds like a cross between Dr. Nick Riviera from The Simpsons and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Van Ryswick was arrested in 2019 for performing a castration in his home. Not his own, of course. Apparently he'd done that already to his right ball back in 2012, this time in the shape of someone he met online. Police were alerted when 911 was called by someone who then hung up quickly. In the guest bedroom, police discovered a guy in danger of bleeding out. There was a jar next to the bed. I won't tell you what was in it. How on earth had 2 men wound up in this crazy situation? It appears to be some kind of strange fetish. Never heard of it. And it is beyond odd why anyone would even attempt to perform such a delicate medical procedure. Van Ryswyk informed authorities that he had an idea of what he was doing because of his upbringing on a farm. There might be a difference between castrating a bull and inviting someone round to trim their tackle. To each their own, I guess. Number 2. Do not resuscitate. At a Florida hospital, a patient arrived with one heck of a weird tattoo, one that hospital workers had never seen before, and they were honestly quite stumped. This man was admittedly unconscious and had a history of health problems. He also had a very high blood alcohol level and no identification or family members present. Do not resuscitate was tattooed across the man's chest. The patient was 70 years old and had an explicit denial of any life-saving treatment inked on his skin. The doctors attending the man first didn't want to honor the tattoo because it didn't seem legit to follow the instructions inked on a man's skin. After all, if a dying person comes into the hospital, the right thing to do is usually save them. But then things got really complicated. The hospital's ethics consultant got involved and gave the explicit order not to save the man's life. Do not resuscitate orders are wildly complex, and if one is clearly tattooed on someone's chest, it must be respected. But at the same time, tattoos are in absolutely no way legally binding, right? In the end, all the confusing turbulence resulted in the man dying. A do not resuscitate order was issued and the patient died right there in the hospital. I wonder if he also had, quote, no regrets tattooed somewhere else on his body. Number 1. Chauncey Lump. Love him or loathe him, former President Donald Trump knew how to get a reaction. There was one reaction he didn't bargain for last year. A mystery figure appeared on Facebook who appeared to be some kind of radical. He was a security guard from Florida. Chauncey Lump from Fort Lauderdale reportedly put cream on his face and wrapped his head in a towel to deliver a stern warning to the Donald. In the message, he threatens to blow up Broward County in response to an airstrike, which resulted in the death of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani. He even said he was going to take out then-President Trump, something he had to row back on once authorities arrived at his door. Lump insisted he was performing a prank, but the presence of what looked like an AK-47 assault rifle magazine, as in something with bullets rather than a publication, didn't exactly help his case. In fairness to Chauncey Lump, he was also wearing a shower curtain, but his impromptu rant landed him in some hot water. Thanks for watching. What do you think of these crazy Florida man stories? Which one do you think is the most ridiculous? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you next time on the Bored Badger.